Welcome to the Ignite the Day podcast hosted by Rhema UK and Ireland, igniting your day with revelation, inspiration, and encouragement, helping you to live the life that God has called you to. Welcome to the Ignite the Day podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Would you guys just mind introducing yourselves for the listeners, please?
Okay. Hi Tolu, and hello everyone. I'm Lakes and Emmanuel, and this is my beautiful wife.
I'm Tolu Joyce.
Well, yes, and we are both glad to be on this program. It's a lovely opportunity. We have a lot to thank Rhema for, and so yes, thank you for having us.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and we got to do some of Rhema together. I think, is that right, Lakan? We were there at the same time. Yeah. So, and that was in the good old pre-COVID days when we had, those full days on a Saturday where it was the good old Rhema days.
We did Friday night and Saturday, and then it became all Saturday.
So I was not as committed as the Friday night, Saturday people. I came in probably about halfway when it was just Saturdays, and I was quite grateful for that, actually. Yeah. But no, I would love to just hear a little bit about both of your stories, because both of you, so Lakan, you've done Rhema. Tolu, have you graduated yet?
Well, I've finished, but waiting for graduation with the next set.
Okay. Fine. So I think you're graduating when my wife is graduating. So yeah, I would just love to hear your stories and your journeys to getting to Rhema. How did you end up doing Rhema?
Okay, so I think when I was in my teens, started listening to Brother Hagin, and I was in Nigeria then. I was in uni. So that was how it started. So at that time, we had cassette tapes or the magazine or books. Rhema was in the US, and so that was the only campus that I knew existed at the time. But Brother Hagin did make a lot of impact on my life growing up as a Christian. It was something about the teaching ministry, the how to, not just the have faith, but the how to have faith, how to be led by the Holy Spirit, and things like that. So God used him, people like him, other ministers, of course, and the ministry of Rhema in my life. So I think I was very grateful, very impacted by that. And then someone that I knew who was leading a campus fellowship had graduated, gone to Rhema in the US, and come back. So he held a couple of meetings. And so I was at those meetings. And again, there was a lot of impact. He talked about the Pauline prayers and how you can use them in your life. And, and that became a tool for me growing up as a Christian. So I think there was always this thing at the back of my mind about, okay, Rhema is in the US, never been to the US before, but maybe someday, but not really a plan. So fast forward, however many years later, living in the UK, heard that there was Rhema in the UK, and it was a very good fit. It was like, wow, excellent, let's do this. But of course, there had to be a going through, how do we do it? When do we do it? How do we family work and all that? So I signed up to start in September. My daughter was starting school exactly at that time. I just thought there was a few too many changes because they were schooling quite far away from home. So I decided to defer till January, I think, the next year. But that's how I started Rhema, and no looking back since then. It's been a wonderful journey, and yeah. What about you?
Yes, I think I have known about Brother Hagin since I was in uni. We met in university in Nigeria, and I wouldn't really say I know much about Rhema, but I've read his books. Some of those little books I used to get them from my brother, the little in him books, very small, and they made an impact on my faith. And then coming to the UK, the message of faith, through Kenny Copeland Ministry, Brother Hagin, that was something that was always a blessing. When and I know, I actually got to know about Brother Hagin through him, and also more about the word of faith, when he was in Nigeria and I was here to start with. He sent me some of the books, some of the Rhema books from Nigeria to the UK. And, I got to know more and more about Brother Hagin that way. And then when he started Rhema, I was like, wow, okay, this is full on. He used to go, he'll work all day, and then he will go Friday nights, come back, I'll be with the kids at home. And then Saturday mornings off again. It's like, wow. it was a to do.
Mm.
It was full on, I think,
Mm.
because obviously if you worked all week, you're looking forward to the relaxed weekend and then you're with the kids. But I think it was absolutely worth letting him go. I mean, I wasn't going to stop him anyway, but it was worth, the sacrifice for him and even for me.
Mm.
I mean, for us.
And to be fair, sorry to interrupt you, it wasn't every weekend.
No.
It was probably once every 3 weekends,
Yes.
but it was still a task.
Yes.
But it was very rewarding. When you got there, it was just so lovely. But carry on.
And then you come and share with me some of the things I was learning, some of the books. I got introduced to some of they had this. You have the reading, assignments that you have to read, and he shared them with me, and I was like, "Wow, this is really amazing." He said, "Oh, so you come?" I'm thinking, "Really? Come, just come!" Like,
what do you do with the kids?
What do you do with the kids? It's like, I'm like, please, just enjoy. It's great. It's amazing. Just keep going. And it was awesome. And then COVID happened. I think you had finished actually before COVID. Graduated in 2019, and then COVID was 2020. And just before COVID, actually beginning of the year, we went December 19. We went away as a couple. My mom was around, and while we were away, we just spent some time.
Can you tell them again? Her mom was around. We didn't leave the children alone.
Yes. No, we didn't leave the children by themselves. Okay. So we decided to go away. Prior to that, earlier 2019, he mentioned something about Winter Bible Seminar. I was thinking, what's that? I didn't know what it was. And I was like, it's somewhere around the half term. It just didn't. First of all, I didn't really know much about it, and maybe some people were going. And then when we were away, December 2019, we were praying, and I just had in my heart, Winter Bible Seminar or something. Winter Bible Seminar. So I just Googled it on my phone, and I realized it actually coincided with the children's half term. So I now told him, I said, Winter Bible Seminar, you mentioned it last year. What about it? And we prayed about it, and we went for it, and came back just in February, and then the lockdown
just before COVID. Wow.
Exactly. Lockdown started in March. And it was everything just falling in place really for me. And we at the same time, just around that time was when he was called into a leadership position in church to lead the children's ministry. And then when later on that year they said Rhema was going to start online, I was like, absolutely, yes, please. So that was how I was able to do it. At the high here was my perfect timing to be able to connect with all those lessons, connect with all those messages and the people. And I was able to start online. Even then I was thinking, Lord, I don't know how long lockdown would be. And I don't know what will happen if we now have to convert to doing it face to face. But I'm just going to start and then see how it goes. So.
That's awesome. So you've almost done Rhema twice then, because you would hear when he was coming back and sharing everything, doing the books, and then you've done it again yourself. That's amazing. Yeah. I wanted to ask, both of you said something. Tolu Joyce, you said it was worth it, and Lakhan, you said it was rewarding. What does that mean to both of you when you say that? Like, what did that look like for you that made it worth it and made it rewarding?
Okay, I'll put it this way. For me, so showing up in Rhema, the very first Rhema session that I remember, probably the first one I attended, the lecturer or the tutor was from Germany. So she,
Monica.
she lived in Monica. Yeah, she lived in Germany, and she came over, and I was surrounded by people. Someone was from Latvia. He flew in every weekend, had Rhema, my good friend Ivers. We had people from all sorts of places, Great Yarmouth and the UK and all sorts, and you thought to yourself, wow, this is truly international. This isn't just, it's good to be with a group of believers and everybody lives in the same town and everybody, shops in the same mall. And that's all good and great and lovely. I've been in small churches. It's lovely to have that fellowship. But it's also good to have different perspectives, and the word is still true. It's true in every language, it's true in every culture, it's true in every context. So that I felt was very appealing to me. And I thought, along with everything else that I was sensing, this is where I need to be. So for me, The Fletchers were directors at the time. They were like a father and mother figures to us. And they were just so funny and so down to earth. It was like, wow, where's this been all my life kind of thing. Yeah, that's me. What about you?
Yeah, I think going to Rhema it was really life changing because we had like for each lesson, you had 13 hours of lectures or, an hour session to video recording to study. And then you had to take notes on them and then submit them in, as well as, going through the books. And I think it wasn't just going through the motion because obviously having 3 young children and doing all of that and working, what I did was I used to try and watch one of them a day. So in the morning, first thing before the kids wake up, I try and watch an hour and use it as my time. Feeding it on it's like that was kind of unique for me because it wasn't just a binge once a month, which I'm sure is still valuable, but was a consistent and you can see how it applies. And if where you might zone out if it was a really long day, because I was having it in bites, I was able to see how it applies to different areas of life and family and ministry and work. Yeah, I think it was just a word in season. It was the word of God where it was in time. And there were many lectures, not just there were practical things as well. I think one of the lectures we had was about project management. I think, and we had to work on a project. And at that time, we had a project we were doing for the children's church, doing for organizing the International Gathering of Champions, which is a conference we do every year for children. I thought, I might as well this is my
use
practice.
That. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
So that was great. So everything was applicable, whether in life or in ministry. So it was good to have. Yeah, it's like having a mentor for life at the end of a video.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, I'll bank this one when I want to deal with this, and then I'll come back to this one, which is
I think that's one of the really interesting things, and actually one of the things that I really loved about Rhema was, so for example, we had all of our classes in one day, so that was quite intense, not going to lie, but it was like it was a good kind of intense, right? Because you're right, it is a sacrifice. Like everybody is sacrificing to be there, so there's also this expectation in the room. So like in that sense, like the long day is not so long, but then you've got that thing of you've got to read the book over that next 2 or 3 weeks. So just like you're saying, I drip fed myself over that time period. That's how I try to do the books, for example, is I try to do them day by day, bit by bit, because actually then you're getting that consistent thing coming in. And that's one of the things that I love about how Rhema is designed, so that it isn't just meant to be like a all-in-one binge thing. It's like, how do you apply this to your everyday life? How do you make sure that actually you're applying it? It's not just for knowledge's sake. And like you said, it's for life, it's for ministry, it's for marriage. It should be helping with everything. What are some of the impacts that you guys have seen from what you learned at Rhema?
Well, like my wife was saying, just finishing Rhema, while I was in Rhema, I found that there was a practical ministry requirement, the PMR, you sign every month with your head of department. I wasn't the head of department at the time, but I was serving in children's church. So my head of department did sign it, and she was able to evidence that she could see that a lot of the training was coming in useful. It wasn't just a matter of I just work here, I'm doing what I'm told, and that's it. But, there were ideas coming through, there were contributions, coming through because of what we were taught in Rhema. Some of it was confirmation, some of it was revelation, but it was all good in terms of it was making an impact where I was planted and where I was serving. And it wasn't like it had to be from a preparation for me to take over a ministry or become an assistant pastor or to plant a church, as good as those things are and useful in the body. But I found that I could utilize it in whatever I was doing in life and in ministry. So I think that impact was good. And I also think that finishing Rhema and then the year after, like TJ was saying, the year after being asked to lead the children's church, I wasn't the longest serving person there, and it was an honor. But I knew it wasn't. It was God who was calling me to do it, and it wasn't children's church as in a creche, as in just look after the children, keep them busy. I knew that there was genuine ministry that could be done with the children, and Rhema had further empowered me to do that. And COVID coming in meant that we had to do things differently. We didn't, we initially, there were times we couldn't meet with the children. So we had to provide materials. We had a bulletin that we released every so often for them. We had to pack it in with faith and fun stuff. And then when we started meeting, we had the social distancing. We had to find, new ways of having praise and worship and doing stuff with the children and still engaging them in the word and in the spirit. So all of that, I think I couldn't have planned it, but God did plan it to prepare us for what was ahead. So I think Rhema has been useful all the way. Of course, being planted in a great church, in a lovely church, also helps. And Rhema emphasizes about your local church. Rhema is never taking you away from your church. Rhema is always sending you back to your church, referring to your church, making you more useful to your church. So I never felt a conflict. I never felt, I shouldn't tell anyone I'm going to another Bible school. It was never an issue because it was always about serve your church, serve the Lord in your serve your pastor, do what you've been called to do, where you've been called to do it. And so many other things, that the friendships that we made, the people that we met, and it just goes on and on.
Yeah. I mean, one of the topics we talked about was honor. And we read about the Life of Honor, the book by John Bevere. And, when you go through resources like that and you're living, and like you were referring to in terms of serving and honoring people in your life, your pastor, the leadership, and so it is definitely a blessing to be able to use what you've got and wherever you are. And I like, and it's true what you said, you don't have to be called to be a pastor just for life. It's definitely something that was worth it, just for life, yes, because our life is a ministry, whether we're in the fivefold ministry or outside of the fivefold ministry, or whether we work in the marketplace, you're still in ministry. So it equipped us to be able to do that. Things like walking in love. You have to walk in love everywhere, at home, at work, in the supermarket.
Yeah, definitely.
And those are things that helps. The foundation is so important and such a blessing.
Because so many people would ask me when I told them I was in Bible school, they're like, "Oh, you're going to be a pastor?" I'm like, "Probably not." They're like, "Then why are you doing Bible school?" And it's like, because it's just good as a Christian to understand more about the word, understand more about my faith walk, understand how I should be living practically day to day. And that was one of the things I think that, Rhema is just so practical. Like, life of honor that's just how we should be living. Faith and finances, there's so many different things that we talk about that are really holistic for life. And I think that point that you both mentioned about, it's about not about how do we all just become Rhema people and then all join a Rhema church. It's actually like, where are you serving now, and how do you add value and honor and help where you are right now. And I think that's something that a lot of people actually might be quite scared about. A lot of pastors are thinking, if my flock is going to this Bible school, am I going to lose them? Am I going to lose some of my good people? But I really love how, Rhema's actually about, no, it's not about coming here. It's about going back to where you are and really helping, adding value and being better where you are.
Yeah, that body of Christ focus, the also body of Christ focus is something that I think Rhema does very well. And so, yes, it's been great.
Do you guys have like a Rhema testimony, like something that happened while you were at Rhema that because so many people have different Rhema testimonies. Like, some people are like, look, I had no childcare, I had no money, I had nothing, but this is how God provided for me while I was at Rhema. Do you guys have like a Rhema testimony to share?
One comes to mind about my father. So I'm sure there are others, but I did actually put in a prayer request while we were at Rhema about him. And, we're always encouraged. Put in the prayer request, what scriptures are you standing on? And, that's what I said about the hows of how to do faith and how to walk with the Lord. So I put in a prayer request, put the scriptures I was standing on. It was something about his health. There was suddenly a health issue that required sort of us to take emergency action, take him from one city to another, living in Nigeria at the time, and eventually had surgery. There was even a thought that it might be cancer, and there was a complication and all that. But through that process, I know that putting that prayer request forward, standing on those scriptures, helped to facilitate, if I can use that word, that test. But the way I was able to stand in faith was doing those things, and Rhema helped me to do that. So I can remember that, he went into surgery, had surgery, turned out not to be cancer, was discharged, but we just were led for him not to go back to the other city where he was before. And just within like less than a day, he had a complication, became really unwell. Fortunately, he hadn't moved away, so he was able to go back to hospital, get it sorted. That's one of my many Rhema testimonies, and so I'm glad that he's alive and well today.
Yeah, very much so.
What about you?
I'm thinking maybe I might have to come back to that one.
The fact that you're able to do Rhema is a testimony. Yeah,
absolutely.
Very busy, because obviously everyone's busy, but the kind of work we do, and the fact that we have very active children, pretty much all teenagers now. One of them is pretty much an adult. We have a very busy life. So being able to do that, serve in church, and still do Rhema, like I was saying, even my head of department at the time even came for one of our open days, and she was impressed, and she was like, wow, this is great, and being able to do Rhema with the people that we had around us, whether it's virtual or actual, and with the Fletchers, with the Averys now coming in. It's a lifelong testimony and friendship that, it's a network that would always come in useful. And I'm glad that we got to do it.
Yeah, and I think one of the other ones was provision. God really provided, because it's fees to pay, and God provided. Sometimes you're thinking, first of all, it's going to take more time. Maybe you're going to work extra, but then you need to give more. It's going to take more time, and then you need to pay for the course. And God provided every single thing that we needed. Financially, time. We were not worse off by giving that time. I meant that. For you, for example, there were sometimes you used to work late. Or sometimes you used to work some Saturdays, and some Saturdays you had to say no to. But then we were not less. If anything, God provided. And, the things we learn in terms of faith, in terms of, it's, sometimes I feel like everybody needs to learn about the life of faith. We're medical doctors, and you see people, and you want to give them the best, but you're thinking, you feel limited that, I want to give you this medication and that medication. They would work, but the real thing, I wish I could give it to you. So I think, definitely the life of faith when doctors fail, and not that they fail because they're bad, but just because there's a limit, then there is more that can be offered. And I think, and I find myself at work, even sometimes I'm praying under my breath, I'm saying, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to do here? I have to say something. Sometimes that you're not here to just prescribe this or that.
Yeah.
You're here, you're a minister to the person. You might just hold their hand, you might hug them, just comfort them.
Or pray with them.
Just pray with them.
If the door
opens, you take it. Or just pray for them afterwards. Yeah. So living the life of faith is definitely a testimony.
That's amazing. Like, and you mentioned something about the connections that you make. And one of the things, so I think I went to Winter Bible Seminar the year before you guys did. And one of the great things about seeing that is you just realize how connected so many of these people are. So even, for example, I think the Fletchers were telling me about how there was someone that they went to Rhema with back in whatever year they went. They didn't know that person, nothing, but then like 40 years later or something, they're like connected in with that person, and then they realize that we were both at Rhema at the same time, and we're all quite new Rhema graduates, so we're less than 10 years out. We don't know what, 15, 20, 30 years from now, those connections that, we were in the same class together, right? Like, and you and I, we don't know what that's going to look like 20 years from now, but we both know that we have that Rhema connection and foundation. And I think that's just something that for me is just so amazing about how God is going to use the connections and the network that you make, when you're at Rhema. And I'm interested actually, Tolu, how does that work when you're in the virtual world? So how are you connecting with other Rhema students? Because we saw each other every 3 weeks or something, right? Like, and we were eating together, we'd go out for food, like, but how do you do that when it's the virtual world?
I think we had a prayer time, which we did Zoom prayer time. I don't remember the frequency, but it was regularly. And during the Zoom prayer time, we also break out into sessions and then we maybe have a discussion about things. The other thing we did, we also had the Ignite days where you came, I think it was at least 3 times a year, and still happens now. So you come and then you're like, oh, and sometimes I met people that I knew were on the course. I didn't know they were on the course, but I know them outside of Rhema. And I'm thinking, oh, you're here. You're doing Rhema. I didn't know you're doing Rhema. Because obviously we've not had the time to meet in class.
Yeah.
But then in the Ignite days, which is 3 times a year, it was quite a nice day to just connect with other people, meet with them, exchange contacts. And yeah, so that was quite nice. And it wasn't just for the people who are current students. During the Ignite days, sometimes alumni do come and just pop in. So that was good. So he tends to come along when I was there. But I mean, we still go even though I finished the course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's lovely. The Ignite sessions are very good, bringing people together. And of course, there are things like WhatsApp groups, and you know, some of us attend the same churches, but you know, there is more than that. There's more than one layer of connection when you go to church with a Rhema grad that you know from Rhema as well. You know, you can not that you can't trust other people, you can, but you sort of know the hearts a bit more. And Brother Hagin, he did this even in some of his meetings. Sometimes when he starts to move in the spirit, he wants a certain person to play the keyboard. Because they've sort of worked together before, they've ministered together, and you can see from other men of God as well. They want at that particular time. There's a way in which, if you don't know how the Spirit moves with that particular person or how that person is trained, it may interfere with how you can both flow. So I think it's good to have more layers of connection. Of course, we should always be open to go and meet people we've never met before and still flow. But going to Rhema with people and seeing at least one or two of them every now and again is always a treat.
I think that's such an interesting point, because for you to graduate from Rhema, you have to have passed all the classes. So that means there's a level of belief in what we're taught. So, for example, the honor, right? For me, that's one of the really big things about Rhema, is that if you are someone who has graduated from Rhema and you practice what you've learned, you will be an honorable person. So that level of trust, knowing that actually you and I see honor in the same way, and actually we're trying to live out honor, is a really, really big thing, you know, because it's not something that's very popular right now, like honor and submission, and like it's not something that's common anymore. So actually knowing that, okay, no, we both feel the same way about honor means that we can work together in a slightly different way, or we both feel the same way about whatever the topic is. It's actually really, really helpful for that flow and that working together. So yeah, 100% agree. Just as we finish, what is your kind of parting thought that you would like to leave?
Well, parting thought. I think talking about Rhema is the fact that, again, it's about the universal body of Christ. It's not about a denomination, and it's useful to people in different ways. There are flexible programs where people you can do some face to face, you can do some online, whichever way. Connect with the Word. Maybe your church has a Bible school and you want to attend that. That's fine. It doesn't have to be Rhema. In our case, it was Rhema. Be led by the Spirit. Our pastors, our leaders were very understanding and still are. And that's great when people aren't feeling sort of threatened by other people, because God is a God who does connections. He connects the dots in ways we cannot see. So if anyone's inspired about Rhema, to find out about Rhema, please do. And like I said, wherever you are, serve, give value, add value, give quality, and understand that God knows what He's doing with putting you where you are right now and then moving you to where you need to go next. You may, like we've been in children's ministry for most of our time in the body, but God knows how to take you from there and give you another responsibility. You know, I was invited to the pastoral team from there. It wasn't like I had to go to the adult church and say, hey, I'm here, choose me. You know, God will always do what He wants to do with you. Be faithful where you are, and things like that.
I agree. Yeah, no, I do really. I think for me, like Rhema has been life changing, so I would recommend it to anyone. Yeah, the word works, and yeah, it's based on the word, and you can never get too much of it. Sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe I should go through all the classes all over again.
Yeah,
because it is that valuable.
100%. Thank you guys both so much for sharing your Rhema journey, and yeah, really look forward to seeing how God uses you in the body. So thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us. It's been great.
Thank you.
This is part 1 of a 2-part episode series. Make sure that you're subscribed to us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you watch your podcast to catch episode 2. See you then.